Hello, welcome to an emergency episode of Locked On Sharks. My name is JD Young, one half of the Content Boys, and Evander Kane has been placed on waivers for contract termination. So I'll get into we're going to want to do a really quick episode about what this means for Evander Kane, what this means for the Sharks, and just kind of tie a bow on what has been a really ugly situation with Evander Kane since he has arrived in San Jose. So we'll get into this, try to make this like a 10-minute long episode, but wanted to get the content out to you because we are the Content Boys.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So again, Evander Kane placed on waivers for the unconditional waivers for contract with the purpose of contract termination. What does this, or how do we get here? I think is the biggest question first. So it looks like he violated AHL protocol when he got COVID, per Shang Peng of San Jose Hockey Now. He did have a bad, quote unquote, case of COVID when he was down on the Barracuda. I know like a bunch of the Barracuda guys were on the COVID list, including like Ryan Merkley, Jasper Weatherby, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he must have done something that he wasn't supposed to do. I'm not going to try to figure out what he did or didn't do, but whatever he did was warranted enough for him to have his contract terminated. So what does that mean for the Sharks now with his contract being terminated? I think the big thing is they kind of dodged a bullet here, right? They're not going to have to pay for his salaries coming off the book. So per cap friendly is $22,885,000, all that stuff. So the rest of this year and then the following 3 years all come off the books, wiped clean. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of the NHL Players Association and stuff. There's probably going to be some sort of legal battle that'll probably get taken care of. Hush, hush, quietly. They'll probably come to some sort of settlement. Who knows with that? But for the Sharks, cap though, this is, again, the Sharks dodged a bullet here with this, where they're not going to pay a salary. They're not going to try to trade him. They're not going to, if they did try to trade him, they're going to have to attach a major asset just to dump that contract. Again, the Sharks really, they really dodged a bullet here. So we'll get into what they could do with that money here in a little bit. But I think the big thing though, is kind of the Evander Kane saga, right? So with Evander Kane, he was acquired when the Sharks were trying to make a play, going on a cup run. And this was a type of trade where you're trying to add that missing piece, and you're going to ignore all the off-ice issues with him. There's been plenty of stuff that we don't need to go over again, but, even before he came to the Sharks, there was plenty of issues with Evander Kane. I don't want to go into that. You can easily find it, but Doug Wilson took a risk to try to add that final piece to the Sharks to make them go for their cup run, and it didn't work out. And I think there's a lot of sliding doors moments with the Evander Kane trade. So when they acquired Evander Kane, there was if they re-signed him, Buffalo got an extra first-round pick. That first round. And then after that, of course, they traded for Erik Karlsson. If they hadn't re-signed him, and then, when they traded for Erik Karlsson and re-signed Erik Karlsson, that pick that became Tim Stützle would have been the year before, and the Sharks would have had that pick. So that's one thing. If the Sharks were bad, they could have had Tim Stützle just because of Evander Kane. Because, again, that pick that was the Evander Kane first-round pick, it was, a late first round, whatever. But then the Erik Karlsson pick that became Tim Stützle to Ottawa Senators, Evander Kane didn't get re-signed, that pick would have been bumped up a year early. Makes sense. Also, Joe Pavelski, if they didn't re-sign Evander Kane, Joe Pavelski probably still a San Jose Shark, right? So if you go back to that year, right? So Pavelski and Kane were both free agents. Pavelski coming off a career year where he had like 40 goals. His shooting percentage was insane that year. He wanted 7 years, but he wanted $7 million a year, but he wanted that third year, right? And the Sharks didn't really want to commit to that third year, especially with a 35-year-old player. You know, we've seen look at Brent Burns, there's a whole list of guys who, just kind of hit that cliff. And they were worried, I think, with Joe Pavelski about getting that third year if he hits a cliff and then all of a sudden it's, you have a kind of a dead weight contract. So they gambled on a 28-year-old power forward, giving him a $7 by $7 million deal. $7 million. And again, logically, if you're just looking at the on ice, it makes sense, right? Where you want to give a guy who's much younger, who showed flashes of how good he could be. But again, looks like Doug Wilson made the wrong choice there. So I think this is going to come down to one of those things with Doug Wilson, where if he could redo this, he would probably redo this whole trade/contract in an instant, because it was a gamble that he made to try to win a cup, and it didn't work out for them. So, I think it's nice. I mean, we've been very on the podcast, we've been very like, Evander Kane's very good on the ice, but type of guy with him, where is it really worth all the off ice stuff? And, I'm not going to sit here and relitigate all the off ice stuff. There's no matter, that's a very much a he said, she said with that stuff, with his ex-wife and, with the gambling, all that stuff. So, but the big thing right now is the Sharks are officially done with him. I think they really dodged a bullet with being able to terminate his contract. And so where did the Sharks go from here now? So this does free up a lot of extra cap room. So going into next year, now they're going to have, an extra $7 million come, that's off their books. Well, you can do a lot of stuff with $7 million, including maybe one Tomas Hertl. So do I still think that they trade him? Yes, but I'm a little less hesitant than I was yesterday about it. So, or a little more hesitant about it yesterday than I was yesterday. So with Hertl, that would be, because Hertl's probably going to be around that $7-8 million range to re-sign him. I mean, they're also going to have to, Mario Ferraro is going to be up for a deal, but he's still an RFA, so he still control that cost. Like Cogliano is a free agent, Barabanov's a free agent, Noah Gregor's an RFA, Dahlin's an RFA. Like they do have some guys, but like Hertl's kind of the big contract, right? That's coming up, and they're gonna have a little bit more cap space than they did before. But I mean, they're still looking at probably having $12 million of probably 12 or close to $13 million of projected cap space going into next year. So if they don't re-sign Hertl, that gives you some money to go try to acquire a big name asset or whatever you want to do with that. I mean, I think they're going to be looking at adding more forward depth, or if you want to buy out like a Vlasic or try to do something like that, that gives you a little bit of that cap space to do that. So I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do, but it gives them more options, right? Just getting this $7 million off the books, where you can take that and go do something else with it. So especially if they think, if you're getting Eklund, who's going to be, in the league next year, another potential top 10 pick, and then you're going to have your guys like your Bordelos, your Robbins, your Ozzy Weissblatts, like starting to maybe like AHL, maybe cracking the NHL, like maybe trying to acquire a young piece to go with these guys might be the move, but we shall see. I mean, again, the big thing though is Evander Kane, no longer a San Jose Shark. I think, like I said, the Sharks really, really dodged a bullet here with his contract. And, it's one of those things where when Doug Wilson, is finally, whenever he's not part of the San Jose Sharks organization, this is going to be one of those kind of black marks on his record with just, trying to make a trade for a guy and to try to add that final piece to a cup run, and it's just not working out. And then I think that contract, especially with all the baggage that he had, and it just didn't work out for him. So we'll have more on Evander Kane next week, especially when Shang Peng joins us on Tuesday. We're going to have Iman Smith of Broad Street Hockey join us on Monday to break down the Sharks game that's going to be happening here in about 4 hours from when I'm recording this. So make sure you guys subscribe wherever you get your podcast. I should probably also throw this cool thing up for you if you're watching on YouTube. So wherever you get your podcasts, so Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Megaphone, Pocket Cast, wherever, make sure you subscribe. If you can give us a 5-star review, please do. We haven't gotten one at least on Apple. We haven't gotten a 5-star in like a month, and that hurts our content boys' hearts. Make sure you are subscribing on YouTube so you can watch my pretty face. You can see my little Tomasz Hurdle bobblehead in the background there as my wife has taken down all the Christmas decorations, but Hurdle lives on. And you can follow me on Twitter at my fry hole. Kyle, who is off snowboarding right now, is at Kyle Demetrius. And we'll be back on Monday with more stuff about the Sharks. You guys have a great weekend. Go Sharks.